He decided to come, yay! He was gracious. He offered to give up his seat. Okay. Give a little tap of it. Good evening. This is the work session for Northfield City Council, May 4th of 2021. This meeting has been properly advertised in accordance with Public Law 1975, Chapter 231 in the Press of Atlantic City on January 9th of this year. Due to social distancing requirements related to COVID-19, there are limited seats for in-person attendance by members of the public this evening. For this reason, this meeting is also being presented simultaneously as a remote public meeting, live streamed using Zoom conferencing service and in accordance with the governor's executive orders and the Open Public Meetings Act. Zoom meeting participants can dial in by telephone and listen to the proceedings, or they can access the meeting using a web browser and be able to view and listen. Instructions on how members of the public could reserve one of the limited seats, as well as how they can access Zoom, have been made available on the municipal website and were published in the Press of Atlantic City. The full text of the meeting notice has been posted at the entrance to the municipal building and includes Zoom instructions, information on where to find the meeting agenda and relevant documents, as well as instructions on how members of the public could submit questions or comments in advance of tonight's meeting. For those participating via Zoom, all participants will be muted upon entry to the meeting. Web browser participants will not be able to share their screens or see the camera view of anyone other than the host, which is the city of Northfield. Zoom participants wishing to exercise their right to participate during the public comment portion of the meeting should wait until the specific announcement is made to open the public comment period. At this time, one by one, any telephone users will be asked to identify themselves and will be unmuted to permit commentary. For web browser participants, comments or questions may be submitted via the chat function, but will not be acknowledged outside of the designated public comment portion of the meeting. Chat users must also provide his or her name and address for the record in order to be heard. Any written comments submitted in advance will be read aloud and addressed during the public comment portion of the meeting, and for this meeting, we did not receive any. May I have a flag salute led by Council President Pro Tem Deweese, please? To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Mr. Deweese? Here. Mrs. Madden? Here. Mr. Notaro? Mr. Perry? Here. Mr. Smith? Here. Mr. Utz? Here. Mr. Palestina? Here. Mr. Chow? Mr. President?
Thank you. I guess we'll start off, head right into the committee reports. Councilman Perry.
Thank you, Judge. With the public works, we had an issue with Mill Road and Zion Road. Last week, it caved in and we had to do the emergency process that night to rectify the problem. And that's ongoing for the reconstruction of the road. Pine and base, the signage, we had an email on that, and the signage has been done, but we're still looking at getting some of the stone for the one corner that's still in the process, should be done today. So one sign is still pending for a mark out, but the majority of them have been resolved. I'd like to recognize and give my condolences to the Ryan family. Mrs. Ryan passed away. She was a pillar of the community, helping out immensely in Montgomery's mayor, whether it was the tree lighting ceremony, caroling, to the fire department, performance auxiliaries. She was always there and very helpful, and she was one of a kind and a great woman, and my condolences to her family. I'd also like to recognize Lori Ayers, as Councilman Smith said at the last meeting. I've been a friend of John, her husband, for forever, and my condolences to her passing to way too young. outstanding person in our community throughout the years, and my condolences for his family too. So I have right now, Mr. President, I got some information on the sump pump situation in the committee. So, I'll discuss that.
Thank you. Councilman Nuts.
I neglected to bring the inspection and code enforcement report, but revenues continue to be up over last year. There were 4 penalties assessed against people who did not hold permits. And some of those have been collected, some have not. Tomorrow, the planning board will get an introduction to the proposed development of the Arthur Henry lot. 77 unit, I think they're both seeking a variance for 3 stories instead of the 2 that are possible, 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. I mean, at least the Arthur Henry looks nice.
Okay.
But we'll have more information about that in the down road. That's it.
Thank you. Councilman DeWeese.
Thank you, Council President. Yeah, Northfield, Dave Brucefield, the sod has been growing for about a month now. They just cut it this last week, and actually, I think they played on it this weekend. Didn't they have a game Saturday?
I think so,
Yeah, so I didn't hear any complaints. A couple of things we have to touch up, but other than that, it looks really good. So, keep your fingers crossed for that. The other thing is, I had a resident reach out to me, thanking Public Works for clearing along the fence line. We had a complaint about the growth over the fence. They took care of that, but I also want to recognize Shannon Campbell, because she had a hand in that process as well. So Shannon does a great job for the city of Northfield, so I really want to recognize the work that she does.
Thank you.
That's all I have. Thank
I
you.
agree 100%. Councilman Smith.
Thank you, Mr. President. So just a couple of details. First, I wanted to thank Public Works and Northfield Little League. In my role as the mainland softball coach, we had a cancer awareness game on Friday night, last Friday versus Ocean City. Public Works did a great job kind of cordoning off some areas so they wouldn't get hit by softballs. Northfield Little League, the fathers helped drag the field, get it all prepared, have the pink baselines, the pink ribbon in the outfield. We had a very nice attendance. I want to thank the clerk's office for helping us with the insurance requirements and making sure that we got that taken care of so that we could play the game. So thank you, Mary. And you know, it was a very nice crowd out there. It was a little bit windy. There were some balls flying out of that ballpark, but there was a lot of kids in attendance. And it was a really nice event. It's breast cancer awareness. There's a donation by Bunting Family Pharmacy that will be directed towards Gilda's Club to help those dealing with cancer. And yeah, I just want to thank all those involved for putting on a nice event for us. I wish we could have gotten a W, but you know, we played our hearts out, and we'll get them next time. But it was a very nice event. So
It was
I
a
just
very
wanted
nice event.
yeah,
It was cold.
yeah, it was a little chilly.
It's a great
but
event.
it's appreciated that we're able to do that, and the kids have a great time doing that, and recognizing that they're playing for individuals who impacted their lives, who have dealt with cancer survivors. So a very nice event, and the program does appreciate what Northfield does for that all around. As far as shared services, we do have some the discussions are still ongoing with Hamilton and Linwood regarding the shared courts. I know that we've been having discussions with the county, which are still ongoing, as we all are being made aware of. But that, you know, Linwood is also moving forward with negotiations with Hamilton Township, so that that ball is still rolling as well. So just to let you know that there will be ongoing discussions as we move forward, and we'll be talking about it. But we do have that as Plan B or Plan C or whatever we want to call it. It might be Plan A for the time being, but I'll be in contact with the officials in Linwood to get some more details for next meeting as far as where we stand with that. And that's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you. Councilwoman Madden.
I have nothing on insurance and safety. The next library meeting is Thursday, May 13th. Did I get that right? So I'll have some stats for you on that then. And the Mainland Regional High School had their budget meeting on last week, or when I attended it, it was, let's see, I get a date. April 29th was the meeting. They are having a 1.5% budgetary increase. Northfield, it always used to be the highest percentage. This year, it's the lower one. It's 29%. Linwood's 31 and Summers Point is 39. So I think we will see a slight decrease in the amount assessed for us. So, but that changes. That's all set by the state. So, enjoy it while we can. But Mr. Marone takes great pains to do as much cost cutting and savings as he can. They do things in-house. They have their in-house maintenance. They try not to outsource things that can be done in-house. So they always have an eye to that. So that's as far as the budget. There are some special recognitions. They did some special recognitions. It's a girls cross country. It's the undefeated in Cape Atlantic League South Jersey Group 3 champions. The girls tennis undefeated in the same Cape Atlantic League Group 3 and 3-4 regional champions. And girls varsity volleyball Cape Atlantic League conference champions. So many of their sports teams are doing very well. Amy Melson talked about the proposal for a show choir class trip coming up in the spring of next year. And also a volleyball trip was proposed. And the other was just routine business. I did ask about vaccines, and Mr. Marone said that he is waiting for state information on that for the next season, next school season. And that's about it that I have.
Thank you. Not much for me to report from my committees, Finance and Collections or Municipal Alliance. I do want to just recognize the placement of the 9/11 artifact out front. It looks like a wonderful spot for it after we moved the war memorial out. Seems like it fit in there just wonderfully. And I just want to thank, again, Shannon Campbell for coordinating that and following through with that. Rami Nasser for a very nice design there. And along with, we can't leave out retired Chief Lauren Crooks for filing the paperwork and getting the artifact in the first place many years ago. And Tower Management for helping get that placed as well for their work. The artifact's been, if people don't know, it's been in the building displayed for a few years, and it's bounced around a little bit, and now it's in its final place and get the recognition and the honor for all of us to remember. Again, I'd like to thank all those folks, and when we have a formal ceremony and formal dedication to it, when the plaque arrives and so on, we'll be discussing it again. But if you stop by and see it, it'll make you remember. And that's all I have. We'll move on to unfinished business. Is there any update on the Zion Pump Station?
Thank you, Council President. I have submitted the request for authorization to move forward with the subdivision. I think there's a resolution tonight for
Okay.
that, so we'll get moving with it.
And while you have the floor, to Northfield
Yes.
Avenue drainage.
I'm in contact with the DOT regarding this intersection. Finally, they kept asking me for plans for the intersection, which we don't have any. I said, I went back and forth. I have a meeting set up with a supervisor next on the 11th at 12. So if any council member would like to attend, that will be on site at 12 o'clock next Wednesday. So we'll discuss it with them. At least they can see what the issues are,
Okay.
Especially they're sitting in their offices, they have no idea what's going on. They keep telling me, oh, we don't have permits, we don't have this. I said, somebody has put that line in and it's not us. So hopefully we get the resolution for that next couple weeks.
Thank you. We have no update on the lease agreement. Shared service for the court. Mayor is not here, so do you have anything from your end, Councilman Smith?
Nothing new other than what I stated previously.
Okay. And the recreational marijuana, we'll have the draft ordinance at the next meeting as it states, so we have nothing further here. All right. I was asking, not telling you. Okay, moving on to new business. The grants, I believe we have a couple things in the works now.
We have two grants we're working on, one for the DCA, both of them are for recreational facilities, and the second one's from the DEP. And also the mayor sent me an email he received from Atlantic City Electric. There's a local municipalities sustainable community grant. It's a small amount of money. And when I looked at what's been awarded last year, between $5,000 to $10,000. So we're gonna try to apply for that and use some of the funds to upgrade some of the recreational facilities we have.
Thank you. And the next item, these sump pumps. I think Councilman Perry, you said you had an update for that?
Yes, in our meeting, we had a union, pre-union meeting for UWA, and in that, myself and Mr. Louise have been working with a problem on Yorkshire, 25 Yorkshire, with the sump pump being pumped directly into the municipal street, and then going a half a block down into the sanitary, down into the stormwater drain, not the sanitary. The situation with Mary Canisi, our clerk, looked for anything in existing ordinances and protocols, and we didn't seem to have any of those. I did have because of the possibility of mosquitoes and stuff, the roadway was cleared by the road department manually, and did a fine job of cleaning it up temporarily. It's not fixed, but made it flow a lot easier. The building department, Jay Dilworth, the plumbing inspector, I contacted him and asked him if there was any state law or a code of the state that prohibits it into the municipal streets. He indicated that there was not. There is for pumping it into the sanitary sewer system. His recommendation was to have the engineer draft a municipal code ordinance stating that all sump pumps be on-site trench drains or some type of system to recharge it on-site. And but other than that, we have several throughout the community, and if it's going to keep continuing, this local ordinance would suffice in not having this problem reoccur again. That is something with Mr. Dweez and Ron, you were out there, Mary were out there. We don't have any teeth in what was put out there originally from what we can see, but I think that we ought to look at doing the municipal ordinance. That's about all I can tell you on that deal. You know, you looked at it from every angle.
Councilman Deweese?
Have we reached out to the surrounding communities to see if they have the same issue? Do they have any codes or anything that we can?
I have not as of yet.
Because I actually spoke to some folks at the county level unofficially, and they have the same problem. You know, so go ahead, fire away.
In Buena Vista, they have an ordinance saying if you need to connect to the drainage system, you cannot create any puddles. That's the only way you can argue this. You can dump your water in the street, and if it goes to the nearest stormwater inlet without causing a puddle in the street, that's legal. But if you cause a puddle, that's what the problem we have. It's not with the system itself. It's the effect of the pumps when they fill the water with the streets, and there's no place for the water to go.
And this could be something very costly for the residents.
Sure.
Something very costly.
And the concern also would be if they decide, if they can't dump it in, if they don't dump it in the street and then they bring it back on property and they put it into this sanitary system, there's no way to tell if that's being done.
By the way, I think that's being done anyway.
Yeah, well,
I-
so then those that are not doing that are going to jump into that.
But the same token, you can't have a situation that somebody caused a problem in the street that where the water lays and sit.
Sure.
If the water doesn't sit, there's no harm to our system.
It was rolling down the street. I mean, it was moving slowly down the street today.
As long as it
Because it's been
doesn't,
cleared, so it was moving. It wasn't puddling, but it was constant running.
Is it an issue of maintenance of the street?
And the
They
street was
clean the
probably
streets, so
dirt,
that, it's,
and debris and mold was starting to grow, and with the pollen and everything, it was pushing it further out, but it was getting more and more intense when mosquitoes and other bugs could grow into it. So we made a choice to move forward with a public health issue, to have the road department this one time clean it. We are in the schedule for the street sweeping, but that's not satisfactory for the individual who filed the complaint. He wants it rectified, eliminated from being in front of his house where he has to drive his driveway through it over it. It is a mess. I mean, you know, I wouldn't like it in front of my house.
I mean, I've seen other areas where there's not an issue with, dirt per se being in the gutter line, but it's just the velocity where it's just not gonna have the speed, the gravity speed to get down to the nearest drain. So it sits there and collects.
And the plumbing inspector's recommendation was at the furthest point where you could put this drainage facility away from where the home is on your property.
Right.
French drain. But that was the only recourse that he had given me through state plumbing criteria, state code.
Excuse me, Mr. Perry, the people in Zoom say they can't hear you. If you can,
I'm right in
I
there,
know.
Mary.
I know.
Unless it's not turned up
I
on
can
the
hear
other.
you.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah, I can't get much further to
Stick me up.
it. But, that's the only option that we have right now to satisfy this problem, and it seems like it's a growing problem. It's not just one, we have roughly 7 of them existing, so. Some people have less volume, and the drain is closer to their home, and it doesn't travel as far, but this one travels a good half of the city block. And, I'll try and research and see if there is any ordinances out there that tailor to some pump discharge.
I guess we could start with that Buna. That sounds like the best one to start with.
I found one from Franklin Township that I can share with you that would certainly help us going forward, but I'm not sure what we can do to address something that already exists.
Pre-existing, but that's going to be a complicated issue on Yorkshire. As I said, we talked among different circles, and we haven't come up with anything solid as of yet. And it seems like the water table seems to be pretty high. And you would think there wouldn't be, but obviously there is a lot of water coming out.
I mean, I've seen, one that I see on occasionally, I've seen it in the winter time, where the winter, and the water does freeze up, so that's a problem. That's a real problem.
Right?
Well, I guess we just have to go with what we have is
Well,
bring it back on
from
property.
From here on, if we do have an ordinance, at least we can
Yeah.
stop it from the future, go on a whole city block to get there, or something like that, it has to be within so many feet of an inlet in front of your property, or something like that, or it has to be held on site in a French drain from here on in. If we don't benchmark it, the time to move forward with it, then it's just gonna progressively get worse in the future.
Yep, I agree. I think that's what we need to do. So let's see if we can move forward with, get something put together for that, similar to either the Franklin Township or the Buna, and see if that fits us.
have a question. Is there an ordinance against standing water, stagnant water? If somebody has a pool they're not maintaining, and it's just stagnant, breeding mosquitoes, there's no such ordinance against standing water? Stagnant?
Not that I'm aware.
Zoning issue.
That's a zoning issue.
Yeah, I'd have to yield to the zoning
There's also
officer.
health issues to the health department.
Who the hell?
If they're standing water, then that is a health issue.
But the problem we have is that in our municipal code, nobody owns the gutter, if you will. The property maintenance code is all curb towards your house. It's silent as to the gutter. So
Standing water is in the gutter. No. Okay, got it.
Okay, moving on then to 2021 local road program.
Thank you, Council President. I got two items, actually. It's also we received a notice from the state that they opened the applications for the 2021 municipal aid.
Okay,
It's the same funds, the grants we got for Fay Avenue.
okay,
I'm going to need some feedback from council members about, we need to have a substantial project like on the caliber of Fay, that's same size to apply because the amount of money available has been going up every year. So I would need to go with, just get some feedback from council. So I don't want to duplicate that with our 2021 road program. I have a list, and also I would need some, if there's any streets, any of the council members, they know that they need help because I can't see every street in town. I have my own list.
okay,
I'd like to get some feedback before the next meeting, so I can come up with a comprehensive list. So we can go through it and say, okay, this is what we want to do for 2021. And we'll find a large project. That's what I would like to apply to the state for the grant fund.
and you said, what was it with the beginning of your comments on Fay? What was,
The same caliper as Fay.
Oh, same, okay.
The municipal aid is,
Okay.
they increased the funds from the past 5 years till now. They went from 180 to almost over 300,000. So that helps on improving larger roads. So we need to come up with, and I can't get a grant from the state, like under municipal aid for multiple roadways. They'd like to have one road going from one section to the other.
okay,
Oh, one road,
Yeah, so
not
Mr.
small.
President,
Yes.
Craig and myself and Quinn will meet with Robbie on.
okay.
okay.
All right,
And
I'll bring my list, and then
Yeah.
next meeting, I'll share the list with council before the meeting, so everybody can look at it and say, okay, this is what we want to do, or we want to add, or take streets off.
If anyone else from council has any that they're aware of, could you give them to either Councilman DeWeese or Councilman Perry? And then that way they can coordinate that with Rami.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We'll move on. Let's review the meeting agenda. Approval of the minutes, Councilman Smith, Councilwoman Madden. Resolutions, Councilman DeWeese, Councilman Perry. Payment of bills, Councilman Utz and Councilman Smith. And meeting notices, Councilman Perry. At this time, we'll open the meeting to the public. Anyone wishing to speak on any subject. We ask that you please state your name and address for the record and observe a 5-minute limit per speaker.
Hey everybody, Aubrey Hire, 3 Park Road, Linwood. I just came to give updates on the library. First, I'd like to say the parking lot looks amazing, and we really appreciate that municipal project. I know there's a lot of issues with rain and timing and all of that, but all said and done, it is amazing. And we've had a lot of rain lately. Those large lanes of water are no longer happening in the lot. So it's really noticeable, and people coming in are very grateful too. So thank you for that. This past month, we had our first program in Birchgrove Park. It was Home Sweet Habitat. And the Woodford Cedar Run came down and did a program at the bandstand for the kids. and brought they brought a turkey vulture and a snake, which is you know, not my choice of cuddly fun animals to see, but the kids loved it. We had a great time, and one of the reasons I wanted to have an Earth Day celebration out there was to do a bit of a trial run, because we're planning on doing programming out there every Saturday morning throughout the summer. And it was a great trial run. We took a pop-up library, our open air collection, and we actually checked books out to people. We signed 3 new kids up for library cards by being out there in the park. Before the program, I walked through the playground and said, hey, the library is about to have a program right over there. If you know, if you want to come check it out. So we got individuals and residents who would not necessarily have interacted with the library on that day, getting library cards, checking out books right there on the spot, and then returning books back to us, you know, within this stretch of few weeks, we've seen them actually come into the library. So I'm really excited and hopeful for moving forward with the programming this summer out in that location. So I wanted to give you guys that update.
Thank
I
you.
had a lot of like little concerns and lots of, you know, what if this happens, what if that happens? But I think we're looking really good. The other thing that I wanted to share with you guys is that we received a grant from the American Library Association, Libraries Transforming Communities. It's a focus on small and rural libraries initiative. We're one of 9 New Jersey libraries to receive this grant. And the plan for the grant is that we will host 2 community book talks at that bandstand center. We're gonna have wireless microphones so people can talk and be heard and still maintain social distance. The first of these talks is going to be Saturday, July 17th on a book titled The Nature Fix, Why Nature Makes Us Happier, Healthier, and More Creative. And that book explores a lot of the benefits of nature and also of community and even different enterprises that take advantage of their natural resources for profit in some cases, or to build community in other cases, or just for personal health. And then the other book, community book talk, will be Saturday, August 21st. That's the book Palaces for the People. This is about how social infrastructure can help fight inequality, polarization, and the decline of civic life, which is a mouthful, right? But when I read the book, what I realized in reading it was there is a lot to talk about as far as our community, how we communicate with each other, what goes on in the world of social media and the explosion of voices and people who believe that maybe they are participating in their civic engagement by being on social media, and how maybe getting people together, reading a book, focusing our conversation around that, maybe we could find a more meaningful conversation and way of interacting with each other as a community. So that's my idealistic goal.
Thank you.
And so part of that is that I will go to a training through the American Library Association. And that'll be training on facilitating community conversations. And that's all we'll be doing is reading a book, having a conversation. The other exciting part of this grant is that it is a $3,000 grant. Part of the money will be going to buying books, part of that going to microphone and sound system so that we'll all be able to hear each other. And part of that is to be able to provide wireless or be able to provide an internet connection to the Northfield Museum there. And then to put in a Wi-Fi router that will allow Wi-Fi for the bandstand there. So, and the Wi-Fi, with the Wi-Fi router, you're not aware, you can limit the time that the Wi-Fi is available. So we could have Wi-Fi only available during programming or from dawn to dusk, or however the city would like that to be set up. But obviously this involves the city entity, not library property. So I didn't want to start the conversation prior to receiving the grant. But we've received the grant now, so the money is there if city council is willing to have me work with the historical society or the cultural committee, whomever would be more appropriate, to get that internet connection set up there. I believe it'll also help Ward Clark a lot with being able to digitize and get things on, get them out and up on the internet without having to, at this point, he digitizes something and he goes to his home to try to get that onto the internet or another platform where people can interact with the material. So.
Yeah,
This grant, the timing of it, we're having an issue with the museum right now with communication. Is there a time factor here? Because you may have to do some hard wiring to get all this connection stuff done correctly at the museum.
Right.
Comcast, has a problem with Comcast, the phone line is a disaster right now, so we're working on that right now, so what
Okay.
kind of a timeline are you looking at?
There's, well, we would hope that we would have the internet up by July 17th so that we could have the community conversation available on Zoom as well, which is the basis of having that Wi-Fi installation, so that we could cast right out.
I'll speak with Quinn and Kathy tomorrow and we'll communicate.
Okay,
So we get that up and running.
great.
All right,
Thank you so much.
thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Aubrey, I'm sorry, will the books that you're going to have the community talks on, will the library will have copies of those for people to?
Yes, part of the grant will be, I'll purchase multiple copies, and then, and this will all, I'll make a big announcement. But I wanted to make sure to communicate with the city before I was like, hey, community, we can do this thing. Yeah.
Sure, thank you.
So yeah, people will be able to pick up a copy of the book, and I'm hoping that we'll get, I mean, you know, city council isn't exactly the most popular place on a Tuesday night, and honestly, right now, the library is not the most popular place, because of COVID, and because, you know, people are out of the habit of being involved and engaged with us civically. And I think that we have a real opportunity in the summer to kind of turn that around and start to open up a communication again. So, and the park is the best place to do it. Have our
Yeah.
open air collection.
Sounds
Aubrey,
good.
Can you let me know, or Joan and Corey know when the seniors can come back in and start our activities again?
Yeah.
I'm sure we're not there yet, but when we do, when those stuff's opening up more and more, the governor the other day saying, you know, that, but when we're capable, we're able, just let her know, or we know.
Yeah, you'll be the first one.
Okay.
We'll definitely have more of a conversation about that at our next board meeting.
Good.
I'm also looking at potentially having an outdoor open air book sale, setting up the
That'd be
parking
good.
lot on a sunny weekend and having our book sale and starting to put some more money in that way. And I know the Mahjong ladies are ready to come back and the book clubs are ready to come back, so.
Everybody wants to get moving again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I miss them all. I miss seeing everyone and all of you.
Yeah.
What is a community center has really felt very quiet library.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling it. I'm ready to be happening again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Thanks, Ed.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Heather Mellon, 2509 River Drive. Aubrey did a fantastic job at the park. The children were very attentive, and especially with the animals, they just loved seeing them, especially what was that for?
The turkey culture.
Yeah,
I
and it
don't
was
get
very
it.
well behaved too. But there was, and she made sure that everyone was safe. We all wore masks and distanced ourselves, and no problem with that at all. Children, like I said, had lots and lots of questions, and it was just so good to see the park being used for a really good reason. And the Friends of the Library, and also remember the Friends of Birch Grove Park have volunteered to help Audrey with any extra expenses that, she incurred. And all she has to do is ask either the Friends of the Library or the Friends of Birch Grove for some help, and we will certainly help out monetarily. I have one question here on this. The marijuana draft ordinance. Now, when I was here the last time and you took a vote on it, does that mean it's a yes, it's a go?
No, we just, the vote we took was to move ahead in starting to prepare the ordinance.
I see.
And then once that's done, then we'll discuss the ordinance formally.
Okay, well, once again, I'm very, very much against it. I've been on the computer looking at Colorado and Denver and maybe the problems that they have. And, rather like a lot of these shore towns, are saying no, and for a very good reason. And I just don't want this to become the gateway to marijuana instead of the gateway to the shore. I really hope that you think about this before you go ahead with anything. I'm not a prude, but a drug is a drug is a drug is a drug. And I think that we should be extremely careful about what we do about this.
Thank you. Zoomer?
No, no one in Zoom?
No one in Zoom. Anyone else here wishing to speak? With that, we will close the public session. Do I have a motion to adjourn the work session?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That was nice.
we're trying to get couch down.
Good evening. This is the regular session, Northfield City Council, May 4th of 2021. This meeting was properly advertised in accordance with Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, in the Press of Atlantic City on January 9th of this year. Due to social distancing requirements related to COVID-19, there are limited seats for in-person attendance by members of the public this evening. For this reason, this meeting is also being presented simultaneously as a remote public meeting, live streamed using Zoom conferencing service and in accordance with the governor's executive orders and the Open Public Meetings Act. Zoom meeting participants can dial in by telephone and listen to the proceedings, or they can access the meeting using a web browser and be able to view and listen. Instructions on how members of the public could reserve one of the limited seats, as well as how they can access Zoom, have been made available on the municipal website and were published in the Press of Atlantic City. The full text of the public meeting notice has been posted at the entrance to the municipal building and includes Zoom instructions, information on where to find the meeting agenda and relevant documents, as well as instructions on how members of the public could submit comments in advance of tonight's meeting. For those participating via Zoom, all participants will be muted upon entry to the meeting. Web browser participants will not be able to share their screens or see the camera view of anyone other than the host, which is the city of Northfield. Zoom participants wishing to exercise their right to participate during the public comment portion of the meeting should wait until the specific announcement is made to open the public comment period. At this time, one by one, any telephone users will be asked to identify themselves and will be unmuted to permit commentary. For web browser participants, comments or questions may be submitted via the chat function, but will not be acknowledged outside of the designated public comment portion of the meeting. Chat users must also provide their name and address for the record in order to be heard. Any written comments submitted in advance would be read aloud and addressed during the public comment portion of the meeting, and there were none for this evening. May I have a flag salute led by Council President Pro Tem DeWeese, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call?
Here.
Mr. DeWeese.
Here.
Mrs. Madden.
Here.
Mr. Notaro. Mr. Perry.
Here.
Mr. Smith.
Here.
Mr. Rutz.
Here.
Mr. Policina.
Here.
Mr. Chow. Mr. President.
Thank you. Approval of the minutes?
Make a motion to dispense of the reading of the minutes. They have been posted, distributed to council, and are on file at the city clerk's office.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is the mayor in Zoom?
I'm sorry. Who motioned the minutes? I'm so sorry.
I
I
seconded.
did.
Brian?
Smith and Madden.
Smith and
Yes.
Madden,
Thank you
yes.
so much.
I have to do a better job, I guess. It wasn't memorable.
So hard to find.
Can't
good
see your
help.
mouth move.
So hard to find good help. Okay, we're good.
Mayor's report, or is he in Zoom?
He is not here.
Okay. Engineers report.
Thank you, Council President. I prepared my report last Friday. There's only a couple of things I'd like to bring up tonight. The 2019 municipal aid project, which is known as Shepherd Drive, is being closed out. We submitted all the documents to the state. So when they will sign all the paperwork and they will give us the last check. So that project will be closed out maybe in about 60 days tops.
Okay.
The other thing is we just did is we had the contractor come in to video pipe sewer lines throughout the municipality. For a whole week, they almost did almost about 75 or 8,000 linear feet we did. We had to pull them off the job to go out to check that emergency we had on Zion and Mill. And we found some issues with the line. So lines, some of our lines, they need some help. So that will be part of the asset management plan. But some of the lines, they need immediate help. So one of them is the sewer line from Fillmore to Zion. That needs to be slip lined. So as you know that we are waiting for bids for slip lining the sewer system, portion of the sewer system. I'd like to add that section to the contract. One way or another, it should get done. It's really in a dire shape. there's cracks, there's all kind of issues with it. We need to do that, so. But beside that, when we finish the asset management plan, we'll have a document that tells the municipality that that's what we should do every year, how much money we should set aside for the typical maintenance, and what has to be done, like a plan for the next 5 years.
Sure.
So
Mhm.
that's what we did.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think obviously if it's an emergent situation,
Yes, that when I was out there when they were looking at the line, really needs help.
Councilman Perry, Councilman Deweese, any input with that? You agree?
It was found this past week, and, we gotta move on it, and, put it together and move forward with it.
Okay.
And, are you gonna try to do it in the award for the,
Well,
Roosevelt and Second Street line, or
Well-
are you gonna do the second, or the, one on, Zion and,
well, if it's possible, I can create an addendum to add that section to the proposal. So what I can do, if council is okay with that, I would send an addendum to all the contractor, say, we want to add this portion of this road to the project.
Yeah. I mean,
It's
Yeah,
about
I think that's
350,
a- I think that's
it's
what
about
we-
350 feet. I anticipate the cost will be about maybe $20,000 if it's part of the project.
And do we have an amount that we were looking at with the project as it stood?
I think originally we talked about between 200 and 250,000. I think this will add up maybe another 20,000 to it.
Okay.
But then the contractor is in town doing the work, so we can get this done within a month and a half.
Right, yeah, rather than have them come in on an emergent situation to do that one, it would be more.
Right, it'll be more because for mobilization, for them to come out.
Costly.
And then we have to get quotes from 3 different vendors, and that sometimes becomes difficult.
Okay, yeah, I think we're all in agreement there. Is any other council persons have any other questions?
No, I think this
Okay.
is cost-effective measure.
Okay,
Thank you.
so yeah, move forward with that, yeah,
All right, that's fine. Thank you, Councilman.
thank you. Councilman
I
Deweese?
just want to recognize and thank Ronald for, get a couple of repairs of the concrete that he, got a contract to get pretty quickly get it done. And also the concrete pad has been poured for the, storage shed for the police department out back. So I'll give it Kathy tomorrow because she had to order a date when it could be delivered. But thank you, Ronald.
Thank you. Any other questions for the engineer? Okay, at this time, we will open the meeting to the public. Anyone wishing to speak on any topic, please state your name and address for the record, and please observe a 5-minute limit per speaker. Seems quiet here. Anything on Zoom?
Does not appear to be anybody in Zoom.
Okay. With that, the public session is now closed. Resolutions.
So we didn't think 1 minute. Oh, my God.
Oh, I guess I will. Thanks. I almost made it through a whole meeting. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine in nature and having been reviewed by council will be enacted by one motion. Any item may be removed from the consent agenda at the request of any council member, and if so removed, will be treated as a separate matter. Any items requiring expenditure are supported by a certificate of availability of funds. Anyone wishing to have anything pulled from the consent agenda?
no, but I don't, see 98, we're done with that, right?
What's 98, sir?
Yeah, that new hire for the road department.
Oh. Yes, it is part of the packet, but the title is not listed in the body. So yes, if you look, 98 is there. I apologize for that.
I don't see it.
It's here. It's not here.
Ours is opposite. Ours is here and not here.
All right, I got nothing. On my copy, 98 isn't listed. It's on the agenda.
You just don't have a job. I don't have a job.
Here you go.
That's fine. I mean, I'm just saying if anybody has a question. If you don't have the resolution in front of you.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's on, and it's missing on Mary's agenda, but on the, put in the packet. Okay,
So it's a
I
replacement for
saw
a
you.
gentleman who left us in early January. So it's a replacement. It is not an addition to staff. The gentleman has already successfully passed the background and pre-employment drug and medical screening. And the start rate is the union scale. So that is what it is. Probationary period and then CDL within 120 days of hire.
thank you. Yes,
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the resolution 90, 2021 through 98, 2021 by consent agenda.
Second motion.
any further comments? Roll call?
Mr. Deweese,
Yes.
Mrs. Madden,
Yes.
Mr. Notaro, Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Utz,
Yes.
Mr. Palestina.
Yes,
Motion carries to vote by consent agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the consent agenda for resolutions 90, 2021 through 98, 2021.
Second motion.
roll call.
Mr. Deweese,
Yes.
Mrs. Madden,
Yes.
Mr. Notaro, Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Utz,
Yes.
Mr. Palestina.
Yes,
Motion carries for the adoption of the consent agenda.
Got some free fire this year, 2 different days, so.
we'll all have to gather at the mayor's house.
Yeah.
Payment of bills.
Okay. I will take the necessary motion that we pay the bills in the amount of $3,241,268.47 as presented.
Second?
And roll call.
Mr. Deweese,
Yes.
Mrs. Madden,
Yes.
Mr. Notaro, Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Utz,
Yes.
Mr. Palestina.
Yes,
Motion carries for payment of bills.
meeting notices.
City Council, May 18th, PM work session, regular session, the following.
Thank you. And do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Good job, Tom.
There's a low bar. I just tapped the gavel.
What did we
I
forget?
tapped the gavel too. It's only one. It's only one.
That's okay. One is good to start.